So far we've talked about browsers and servers, where the server creates a page and a browser displays the page, and we've also talked about this three-tier model, where we have a presentation tier responsible for display, we have a processing tier responsible for calculations and the computations of the system, and we have a data tier responsible for the long-term storage of information in the system. You might be tempted to just equate the browser with the presentation tier and the server with the processing and the data tiers. Well, you know, that's not such a bad idea, but the real situation is more complex. First of all, not all systems use browsers. So for the presentation, or we might call it the display tier, for that tier, many applications don't use a browser. All the applications on your mobile phone, for example, your apps, they create their own browser. They have their own way of doing display, so there's no browser involved. Games like World of Warcraft also create their own browsers. They substitute their software for the browser, and you actually download their software onto your computer and use it instead of a browser. So it's not so simple to say the browser is presentation, because some systems don't use a browser. In addition, many systems split that function of display across your computer and the server computer. So not only your computer is doing display, but some of the display is happening on the server computer as well, or some of the presentation. The processing tier also can be split between your computer and the server computer. For example, a lot of systems now use a lot of JavaScript code inside the browser to do computations that might have otherwise been done on the server. So you can't strictly say that processing happens on the server, because a lot of processing can happen actually inside your browser. And of course, if the system downloads its own software like a game would or like a mobile app does, then lots of processing can happen on your computer and not on the server. Less frequent, but still possible, is splitting the data tier between your computer and the server computer, where some of the information of the system is stored on your local hard drive, either through the browser or through one of these other kinds of applications that you download, and some of it is stored in the data tier. Now, that's not such a great idea to have long-term storage of your information on your computer rather than on the server, because what happens if something goes wrong on your computer? Having it on the server up there in the cloud is a really nice thing for applications to do, so that you can recover your information. Usually what happens is there's a copy of the information, a cached version of the information on your computer, but the master version still stays in the data layer. At any rate, it's a more complicated situation, as it always is. The simple idea that a browser does presentation and the server does processing and data, while at first blush seems like a nice way to go, it's really more complicated in the real world.